Now that I got your attention, let's talk about Xdefiant. So Xdefiant is the newest first-person shooter from Ubisoft. And yes, I already know. Ubisoft. Why would I touch that? Well, the reason you might want to be interested in Xdefiant is because it was made by Mark Rubin, the guy who made the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare trilogy. And also the fact that the game is free to play. So that is also a good reason to at least try the game. And as someone who has grown up with the OG Modern Warfare trilogy, I was very interested in this game. So let's talk about it. Now first, I want to get the obvious out of the way. This is not a CoD killer. CoD is unfortunately way too big to fail, but what this is a possible competition for CoD. I mean, as long as Ubisoft doesn't get in the team's way and ruin it. But, for that, we'll have to wait and see. But I think the first thing I want to really talk about with this game is the UI. It is clean. I know what I'm looking at. I know how to find everything, which is great, especially compared to the current Call of Duties, where it's this weird, streamer menu where it's like you're on Netflix or Hulu and you're, looking for different shows to watch, except somehow way worse. So in that instance, Xdefiant is way better than CoD, unless CoD somehow magically fixes all of its menus with Black Ops 6, but I highly doubt that. Alright, so now we're going to talk about gameplay. And a quick disclaimer before we get to gameplay, I do play on console like it's any different from if you're playing on PC, because the game runs the same on both from what I've seen. The only difference is I use a controller for my inputs and not a mouse and keyboard. And as a controller player, I will say this. Yes, you do have to mess with the settings a bit, but who doesn't at this point in gaming not mess with their controller settings at least a little bit, no matter what the platform is? But once you get the settings fine-tuned to how you play, it does feel amazing. Like, the best way I can describe it is a natural evolution of the gameplay that was in the older CODs for today. All the guns feel good to use, which is nice because there are many shooters out there, including the current CODs, where typically it's one or two guns that you would use up until the next update, and then it's another one or two guns that runs everything, and nothing is viable except for those two guns. But here, all the guns feel viable, and they will be adding more guns in the future. They have already said that. So don't worry about that. If you're wondering about the gun selection, so the gun selection is good. They all feel good, and there will be more in the future. Then, of course, after the guns, there's the faction system. So the faction system is sort of like an Overwatch Lite type deal. Instead of having equipment and gadgets like you would in the old school Call of Duties, you're picking a different faction with a different ability, and you pick the ability you want to use. It comes with ultimate also. Each faction has one ultimate and two abilities to choose from. And the ultimate, think of it as a kill streak, and then the ability is like your equipment. Right now, there's currently 5 factions in the game, with one you have to either unlock or pay money for. But it honestly is super easy to unlock it. You just have to get enough experience. So I wouldn't recommend paying real life money for it, but do with your money with what you want. Now let's talk about the factions, starting with the Cleaners. The Cleaners are all about area denial. They have a passive where it gives all their ammo fire damage. 2 abilities where one is a drone that shoots out fire and explodes at the end of its run, and then an area bomb where it explodes the area around you, igniting the ground. And their ultimate is a flamethrower. Then after the Cleaners, we got the Phantoms. The Phantoms are all about zone control. They're all about getting into the objective zone and controlling it. Their passive is having 20 extra health points, and they have a shield that they can shoot out and a personal riot shield, with their ultimate being a dome shield that travels along with them with the instant kill gun with anyone that dares to get into your zone. Then after Phantom, we got Libertad. They are the healing class. They have a passive heal by just being around them. They have a Biodevita life ability, which basically does a quick burst heal to them and anyone around them. And then they also have a throwable healing thing that you can throw onto the objective and it heals everyone around said device. And their ultimate is creating a healing field that gives everyone an extra 100 life points as long as they are in that healing field. Then after Libertad, we got Echelon. Echelon is all about being sneaky sneak. They are honestly glass cannons, but that kind of makes sense since your abilities are going invisible and or having a wall hack that you and your teammates can see, with the ultimate that is actually pretty damn strong. The ultimate is a sonar goggles that shows everyone on the enemy team, well, except only you can see them, and an instant kill pistol. And then finally, you have DeadSect. DeadSect is pretty dang strong, if I do say so myself. They have a passive where you can throw your grenade or flashbang or whatever your throwable is, and it will 3D print a new throwable. So you can have potentially infinite grenades if you stay alive long enough. And then after that, your two abilities is one is a hack to where you can hack people's throwable devices. So that shield that a enemy phantom member thrown out, you can hack it to make it your team's shield, so on and so forth. And the other one is probably the most powerful thing in the game and is probably going to be nerfed by the time this video comes out, or probably in the near future, is a spider bot that shocks and stuns people in place. And then their ultimate is a team-wide hack that basically cancels out everyone's ability that's on the enemy team, and they are not allowed to do their abilities until they die and respawn. Now that we talked about gameplay and the factions, let's talk about the game modes. The game modes are pretty good. Now, these are team-based game modes, as you can kind of sense by the whole hero shooter light thing that's going on. There's no real true team deathmatch going on, except for one mode where it's basically kill confirmed, with a little bit of a twist to it, where if you get enough kill confirmed tokens, you get like a speed boost, so you can be zipping around the map super fast, and you get double the points when you are this person with the speed boost. Really interesting. Not my personal favorite, but it's still a pretty good mode. Actually, all the modes are pretty good, and they're sort of your typical team-based objective-focused game modes, which I do think is the smart move to make this objective-based game. There's no... See, the way it's designed, it works perfectly for objective-based game modes. If it kind of eliminates the purpose of what they're going for if they just put in free-for-all or team deathmatch. Of course, how good are game modes if there aren't any maps to play them on? There are currently 14 maps in the game, and depending on what game modes you are playing, you'll see more than others. But all of them are pretty dang good, which makes sense. It is Mark Rubin's team that's making these maps, and they made the old MW2 games, so it makes sense because the MW trilogy had some pretty iconic maps, and the maps in Xdefiant have been pretty solid so far. Except for Arena. I fucking hate Arena. I really do. I people seem to like it. I don't. Fuck Arena. Now, let's talk about graphics and art direction. Now, with the graphics, they are going for anybody can play this approach, which I think is the best thing to do, especially with
a free-to-play game. Now, I heard many people try and complain that the graphics are awful. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, they're not going to be making any systems sweat, but they are still pretty good. I don't know what people are complaining about. And more importantly, the art direction is pretty dang good. All the maps are super colorful. There's bright colors everywhere, which is honestly fantastic to see because, I get sick and tired of seeing the same brown and gray maps that are in so many other first-person shooters. It's really nice to see. Not to mention, all the characters stand out when playing, so you're not just wondering where the hell is everybody. You will be able to see people in the maps, and the maps are interesting to look at because they have a nice, colorful flair to them. Not to mention, all the guns look good too, especially when you start getting some of the skins. Not going to lie. Although, speaking of skins, I do have a small rant, but I'll save that for a little bit later. But let's talk about the audio. The audio is top notch. Again, Mark Rubin and his team know what they're doing. Everything sounds good from the noise it makes when you kill someone and you start getting on a kill streak, from the way the guns sound, away from the objectives sound. And I'm just going to say this. They did something that's been missing from Call of Duty in a long time. There are personalities in this game. And by that, I mean the announcers. Each faction has its own announcer with its own personality. And it's great because I grew up with the old CODs where I would have a British dude yell at me, AC 130 above, and I've been missing it. And while it's not exactly the same, I'm still grateful that it's there. It feels good. The personality is there with the voices and the sounds. It's good. I love it. All right, so while I just spent a good amount of time praising the game, there are some negatives. First of all, there is some hit registration issues. And before anyone complains about that, Mark Rubin and his team do know about that. And they have stated that they are working on it. It just takes time. So that is an issue that they are currently working on and should be fixed soon, hopefully. Also, yes, it does feel like you go through everything very quickly. Like, the progression is good. It's just, if you know what you're doing, you're going to unlock all the guns and all the throwables very quickly. You'll probably unlock the characters very quickly too. And yeah, it feels like you get everything super quickly except for weapons attachments, but that's honestly fine. They did say they're going to be adding new weapons and maps, which it thankfully is the smart idea. I mean, this is also pre-season, so a lot of stuff that I'm complaining about right now could probably be, when it comes to lack of content, will probably be fixed once we start getting actual seasons in. And really, I only have really nitpicky stuff like the BioVita device for Libertad. I feel like for just a quick burst heal that's just for you in the area around you, I feel like 35 seconds for a cooldown is a little much. I feel like the DedSec phone hacking ability needs to be touched up a tiny bit, while the spider bot needs to be nerfed a tiny bit. Not crazy, just tiny bit. And also the bunny hopping, they're working on a good nerf for that because they want to keep the bunny hopping, and I think bunny hopping should stay in, but it does need to be nerfed so it's not just people jumping around like it's Fortnite again. But obviously, the biggest complaint I have, and I know this is not the fault of Mark Rubin or any of the other developers. This is obviously a Ubisoft problem, and that's the monetization in this game. Yeah, the Battle Pass was only $10, which is good. I feel like that's a good deal because let's be real, there are some Battle Passes that are way more than that and don't offer as much. So I am appreciative that Ubisoft did at least, hold back on that part, but the rest of the skins in a post-Helldivers world, they are asking way too much. $10 for a single skin, that's much, and that's only if you get a certain skin. There are some where you would have to spend 15 or maybe even $20 to get, and that's getting outrageous there. Ubisoft really needs to rethink their monetization if they want to make money for this game, because some of these bundles and skin prices are a little much. They need to look at what Helldivers is doing with its store and copy that, because I feel like after Helldivers basically set the gold standard for live service monetization, every other company needs to follow that example. But yeah, no, Xdefiant is great. By those little nitpicks that I'm pretty sure will be solved, at least I hope most of them will be solved in the near future. But I gotta say, this is a W for Ubisoft, which is something they really needed, especially right now since everyone is pissed off at them, which rightfully so. They deserve all that hate. But if Ubisoft can basically stay out of its own way with Xdefiant, they could have a competitor to CoD, which this is supposed to be. And hopefully this won't be the final situation where it was the hot thing for a month and then it just dies off. Then again, I also played the finals, and Xdefiant has way more potential and plays a lot better than the finals. So I do have hope there. All Ubisoft has to do is just stay out of the way and not basically do what they do with the rest of their games. And just stay out of their own way, stay out of Mark Rubin's way. Just let Xdefiant do its thing, and it's an easy W. That's literally my only fear with this game, is Ubisoft stepping in and ruining it. But yeah, those are my thoughts about Xdefiant. You can call it a review or first impression. We'll have to wait and see what the first official season looks like. I have high hopes for it, and I hope to see you guys in the future. Bye.